Thank you very much, councillors and members of senior staff and the press and the gallery. A warm welcome to you for what is the final meeting of the class of 2016, and it's certainly been a, well, obviously a historical term for not the best of reasons, but anyway, I declare the meeting open. And thank you for being here. This meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. All present today are reminded that while speaking that you are agreeing to your view and comments being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when that we are speaking, that we're of course to be respectful to others and using the appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. So thank you very much. And councillors, I'm very, very pleased to invite Councillor Dennis Slay, who is sitting in his very last meeting of Temora Shire Council, choosing to retire at the 4th of December elections. I'd like to ask Councillor Slay if you'd like to lead us in our opening prayer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Loving God, as we come before you for yet another meeting of our council, we call again on you for all the assistance that we can receive. Help us to be patient with one another. Help us to be thoughtful in what we say. Help us to be creative in what we think. And above all, help us to remember that we are here in this chambers today to serve the community that voted us into this situation. Bless this community, Lord. Bless us and bless future councils. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thanks very much, Councillor Slay. Now, apologies. Now the Deputy Mayor will be around 15 minutes late, but he will be here. So there's no apologies, full compliment. Do we have any declaration of any interest at this stage, please, councillors? No? Then let's proceed now. We actually have a public presentation, and to listen to our public presentation, I'd ask for a motion to set aside standing orders, please. Councillor Judd, Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Now, we bid a warm welcome via Zoom video conferencing to Mrs. Danielle McKenzie from our auditors at Crow. Warm welcome to you, Mrs. McKenzie. Thank you for making time to be with us here at Temora Shire Council. And our Director of Administration and Finance, Mrs. Smith, has certainly indicated that you and your team have been most supportive and helpful most helpful as we've proceeded down the path of auditing our books. So, can you hear me, Mrs. McKenzie?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Good. Thank you. Does the Director wish to have any remarks before? No?
No. Yeah, no. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I'd ask Mrs. McKenzie, would you like to address Council? And of course we'll be considering formally the Auditor's report later in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for having us in here this afternoon. We've completed the audit of the general purpose financial statements of Temora Shire Council for the year ended 30 June 2021. And we've expressed an unmodified audit opinion on your general purpose financial statements. The audit opinion was issued on the 21st of October, so that was within the statutory reporting timeline. In terms of our report on the conduct of the audit, there was one significant audit issue raised within the conduct report this year. That was in relation to the rural firefighting equipment not being recognised within Council's financial statements. So that's not a Temora Shire Council specific issue, that is an industry-wide issue and something that needs to be addressed in the future. But that was included in the conduct report for Council's information. In terms of the income statement, council's operating result from continuing operations was 8.4 million, which was 2 million higher than the prior financial year. This was largely driven by the 3.3 million of grants and contributions provided for capital purposes. So grants and contributions revenue was 15.3 million. As I mentioned, a 3.3 million increase on the prior financial year. That was largely due to the 2.4 million of 15 country roads grant received during the year and 1 million of the local growth community infrastructure funding. The net operating result before capital grants and contributions was about 600,000. That was a slight increase on the prior financial year. In terms of council's cash and cash equivalents, cash at 30 June was 2.78 million. There was a net increase in new cash and cash equivalents balance of 1.16 million during the financial year. The net cash provided by operating activities increased by 650,000, mainly as a result of the increase in the cash receipts from grants and contributions received. The net cash used in investing activities decreased by 990,000, which was driven by the sale of the real estate assets and less payments for investment securities during the year. Council's total borrowings was 2.2 million at 30 June 2021, and council had cash outflows of about 360,000 in terms of repayments during the year, and there were no additional loans taken out by council during the year. In terms of council's performance and the performance against the performance benchmark set by the Office of Local Government, that sees council meeting 5 and 6 key benchmarks that the industry assesses itself against. In terms of council's operating performance ratio, which measures how well council contains its operating expenditure within its operating revenue, the benchmark set by the Office of Local Government is 0%. And council exceeded that benchmark for the current reporting period. The operating performance ratio decreased to 0.33%. That's still a positive result. Council's own source operating revenue ratio, which measures the degree to which council relies on external funding sources such as operating grants and contributions. The benchmark set by the Office of Local Government is 60%. Council did not meet the Office of Local Government benchmark for the current reporting period, which just indicates that council is more reliant on external funding such as grants and contributions, and we saw an increase, as I previously mentioned, in grants received for during the financial year.
Excuse me, Mrs. McKenzie.
On this trend analysis.
So if you can just pause just for a moment, Mr. McKenzie. We're just, for council's information, we're, I think, currently on our business paper, page 56, so you wouldn't have that. So we've just discussed the own source operating revenue ratio. So now over on our business paper, page 57, the unrestricted current ratio. Is that right, Mrs. McKenzie?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. You're right. Thank you.
So in terms of the unrestricted current ratio, it measures council's ability to meet its short-term obligations as and when they fall due. The benchmark set at 1.5 times, so council exceeds the benchmark for the current reporting period. Council's liquidity ratio is 3.25 times greater than the industry benchmark, and it has remained relatively stable over the last couple of years with slight trend upwards. In terms of council's debt service cover ratio, which measures council's operating cash available to service the debt, the benchmark set by the Office of Local Government is 2 times. Council exceeds this benchmark. The ratio currently sits at 14.8 times, which is greater than the benchmark, and indicates that council has sufficient operating revenue to service its the debt by written bonds. In terms of council's rates and annual charges outstanding percentage, which assesses the impact of uncollected rates and annual charges on council's liquidity, The benchmark set by the Austin local government is 10% for regional and rural councils. Council meets the Austin local government benchmark. Council's rates and annual charges outstanding percentage of 3.31%. It's well within the industry benchmark, and it's quite a strong result for council, and it's it's sitting at a very low level, and it's it's remained relatively stable and has not seen any increase as a result of COVID and the collection requirements in place in respect to that. In terms of the cash expense cover ratio, that indicates the number of months council can continue to pay for its immediate expenses without additional cash inflow. The Austin local government benchmark sits at 3 months. Council currently holds a ratio sitting at just over 9 months, which is well above the industry benchmark. I guess, as I mentioned, council meets 5 of the 6 benchmarks, and overall, council's performed quite favourably for the current financial year. And really just wanted to say thank you to management and finance team for their efforts and the assistance that they've provided us throughout the audit process for this year again. A challenging year with COVID and the restrictions in place, but thank you for their efforts, and the audit process ran very smoothly again this year.
Thank you very, very much for that, Mr. McKenzie. Let's go to the Director of Administration and Finance. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make at this point, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, it's a pleasing result, I think, for the year. Of course, we're aware that we're trying to focus on increasing our reserves even further, and the audit went fairly smoothly this year, even though it was done remotely. So, yeah, it was a good effort by the team.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think, Ms. McKenzie, you may be aware, but we're very proud of our senior staff and all of our staff here at Temora Shire Council, and obviously the finance team are no exception, led by our Director, Mrs. Smith. So thank you for those kind words that you've reflected on, and particularly sharing with us some positive news. So thank you. Councillors, comments or questions in relation to the audit report of the auditor? Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I did raise this matter at the internal audit meeting which we held recently, but it concerns on page 61 and again on page 64 about the paragraph entitled Council Law's Responsibilities for the Financial Statements. And this is something that's really worried me for some time. And I did make the request at the internal audit meeting that the General Manager or whoever's take note that in future for training for the new council that subject be covered, so that the new council and council laws will know exactly what their responsibilities are. I think it's a very important subject, I think. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Judd. I understood, Mr. General Manager, that formed part of the training for new councillors.
Yes, it will.
You're not on.
No. Yes, it will. Yes, it will, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about our own source operating revenue ratio. We've really tried hard in the last 12 months to increase our fees and charges and keep getting our income coming in, but it's deteriorated from 57 down to 53, which is a bit disappointing. Can you just give a bit more detail of why that would be? Are we spending more doing the same things, or what's your opinion?
Thank you. Mrs. McKenzie, or the Director? The Director?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can probably answer that. So the main reason for the decline own source revenue is your total revenue excluding revenue from grants and contributions. So this year we had a significant amount of grants. So because the grants increased so significantly, that dilutes our own source revenue.
So it doesn't relate to how much we spend doing.
through you, Mr Mayor, so it's entirely related. It's revenue only, nothing to do with expenditure. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Thank you, Madam Director. Other comments or questions? If not, welcome, Mr Deputy Mayor. If there's nothing further, Mrs Mackenzie, again, we do thank you for making time to present the Auditor's report and making time to be with us. And again, thank you for your kind remarks about our Finance Director and our finance team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Motion, please, to resume standing orders. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Winkie moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Now, let's go to councillors. We have two lots of minutes to adopt, please, and that is the ordinary council meeting on the 21st of October 2021. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Second, Councillor Reinhold moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, the special meeting of council that was held on the 1st of November 2021. If someone that was present care to move that they be received. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Any matters arising out of those minutes, Mr General Manager, please?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Council, let's now proceed to a mayoral minute that is on your desks. Number one, I would like to place on Council's warm thanks to our Temora Shire community for the continuing manner we've handled the ever-evolving COVID situation. We've all been thinking of the three citizens of ours who have had COVID. They've all been doing what is required, and we thank them for that. At this stage, it appears that the 15th of December will be when we can all come together as a community in a proper way and learning to live with COVID. I pay tribute to our health professionals, hospital, medical and all support staff. The manner in which they have looked after our citizens is most heartwarming. And I thank all of our Shire businesses, their families and employees for their kindness, the strength and the resilience. Council and I are extremely proud of our Shire community, with the last 2 years only enhancing that feeling. Number two, I have been asked by the family of our esteemed former colleague, the late Councillor Frederick Albert Stanley Meal, to respectfully invite Council to a memorial service in honour of Mr Meal. This will be held on Saturday the 11th of December at the Temora Bowling and Recreation Club, commencing from 2 p.m. Mr Meal's service to others, together with his memory, will continue to live on in our hearts and minds. Number three, with Temora Shire Council having elections for 9 new councillors on the 4th of December, it is highly appropriate that I formally acknowledge that our friend and colleague Councillor Dennis Slay has chosen not to seek re-election. Councillor Slay was first elected to Temora Shire Council at the September 2012 elections and attended his first meeting on the 20th of September 2012. Councillor Slay has been an active councillor, immersing himself on several committees. Of particular note is Councillor Slay's long reign as chairman of Council's Youth Advisory Committee. He has performed exceptionally well in the role, providing much encouragement, support and counsel to our various youth officers and teams over several years. In all Councillor Slay does, he gives his best, which is both admired and appreciated. His health challenges have been extremely frustrating for him. However, Councillor Slay has continued to devote a great deal of time to council and to our community. And on behalf of my fellow councillors and every staff member at Temora Shire Council, I warmly thank Councillor Slay for his service, and we wish he and his wife, Mrs Margaret Slay, and his family nothing but the very, very best as they commence their new chapter. Thank you, Councillor Slay, and there will be an appropriate farewell ceremony for Councillor Slay in due course. Number 4, as this is the last meeting of the current Temora Shire Council, I would like to make some brief personal reflections. As current councillors, we were first elected on the 10th of September 2016. New elections were due in September of last year. As a result of COVID, the New South Wales Government then extended our term until the 4th of September this year, then a further extension on the 4th of December of this year. As a united team, we really have achieved a great deal. What has assisted greatly is the unprecedented grants that we've received from both our federal and state governments. And to our federal member for Riverina, Mr McCormack, and our state member for Cootamundra, Ms Cook, together with their staff, Temora Shire says a very sincere thank you. As councillors and staff, we all know what we've achieved together, with our Shire community being our primary focus every single step of the way. It's been a long haul, however. It's been an enormous privilege for us to serve as a councillor, as a deputy mayor, and particularly for me as your mayor. I'd like to thank you all for your commitment and your dedication to Temora Shire Council and to our cherished community. I extend an extra special thanks to our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. His support and his friendship and his wise counsel is highly valued by me. I know over this historical 5-year term that all of us as councillors have our collective hearts firmly in the right place, and that for me is so very, very important. Number 5, I wish to formally acknowledge the service over the past 5-year term of our exceptional staff at Temora Shire Council. To General Manager Mr Lavelle, our directors in Mrs Smith and Mr Dunstan, our engineers, Mr Fisher, Mr Dallenberg, all managers, all of our indoor and outdoor staff, councillors and our Shire community, and I say a very warm thank you. Their contributions toward making Temora Shire one of the very best councils and communities around is appreciated and never, ever taken for granted. As your mayor, I make particular mention of Mr Lavelle and our executive assistant, Mrs Rands. They have been a tremendous support to council, to our community, and to myself, and I'm truly grateful to them both for all that they do for us. Number 6, from a personal perspective, I'd like to make particular mention of my parents, Mr and Mrs Furman, and my sister, Miss Jamie Furman. Their support has been crucial for me to act as Mayor of Temora Shire, and I'm forever grateful. And to Mrs Vicky Oliver, I thank her so very much for taking care of my business when I'm on council duties. Her devotion is something very special. And finally, councillors, in conclusion, with elections only 2 weeks away, I'd like to wish all of our candidates the very best. With 9 councillors to be elected for a shortened term, it will be a crucial but exciting period for Temora Shire. And I thank all candidates for having the courage to place their names on the ballot paper. And councillors, there is a recommendation the mayoral minute be noted, and I will move that way. Seconder, the Deputy Mayor, thank you. Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, if not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, let's go to our business paper. We go to page 6, and 8.1 is the Mayor's report for October, and a recommendation on page 9 that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Winkie. Councillor Slay, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go now to delegates' reports. Councillors, we have delegates' reports. Councillor Smith.
Councillor Oliver
Oh.
sorry.
Councillor Smith.
Yep, Councillor Oliver and myself went to the Bundawarra Centre meeting last week. And as always, they do a very fine job, ran very well. Councillor Oliver might have to say, you might want to say something else, but I just think they do a fantastic job. Thank you.
No, thanks very much, Councillor Smith. Do you have anything to add, Councillor Oliver?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. No, just that they had their AGM. I think nearly everyone was returned to their respective positions. Lots of volunteers. They seem to be well endowed with volunteers out there, all very dedicated as well. So, yeah, just a well-run organisation by Mr Bill Spears. So, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor Oliver. For the delegates' reports, the Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Mr Mayor, we've had a Australia Day meeting in the last month. Everything's on track pretty much for breakfast in the park at this stage. We've got a local guest speaker, which I dare say you've probably all read the article in the paper, so we've been very lucky there. Also, I attended the opening of the For Art Prize on Friday the 5th of November. Yeah, exceptionally good night. Enormous number of entries, 336 or 50, was it something like that? Yes, we're going to have to find some more wall space, I think, if it keeps growing the way it is. Lots of new talent, young and old, which is very good to see. Very exceptionally well run night. I have to congratulate Amanda Gay for putting it all together. A lot of work involved and hanging in all the paintings and so forth. A very good night. And also on Friday was the JO meeting. I think there's not a lot to say back there, I don't think. They've probably got a few comments to make on things perhaps, but okay, that's about it.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. And just in relation to the Tomorrow Art Prize, thank you for that. I was flying home from Country Mayors Association AGM meeting, but thank you for that. And the other councillors, I think Councillor Reinhold, Councillor Judd, Councillor McLaren and Councillor Smith and Councillor Winky were able to attend. So, pardon? Oh, excellent. Okay. Thank you. But anyway, those that were able to be there, thank you. And you're quite right, Mr Deputy Mayor. Hats off to our Community and Cultural Services Officer. And I've heard lots of great things, not just from councillors, but also from those that were involved, either as entrants or even just as guests. So that's it's terrific to hear. And I will get out there and have a look-see at the talents of our local folk. In relation to the Riverina JO, it wasn't. We did have Councillor Scott, who was the LGNSW president, addressed us about all issues I think that have been in various minutes and so on that councillors are aware of. But as you know, Councillor Scott addressed us for the last time as president of LGNSW, and to say that she's done a sterling job, frankly, would be an understatement. And however, we're blessed that she's still the Australian local government president. So that was very good. And the deputy mayor, as a member of the board, and the board have resolved that I continue on as the acting chairman. So we'll do our best in that role, whatever title that will be. But I do thank them for that. So thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I go to Councillor Winky.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. on Thursday the 11th, I attended and represented council at Grenfell for a meeting regarding the rail crossings and listened to the debate by Parliament that afternoon over there. There was some, probably around about 40 people attended that particular meeting from a big cross-section of the community. So a lot of the shires were represented, which was lovely to see. We also had the parents who were actually running it, of one of the youngest chap that died in the truck accident at the rail crossing at Grenfell, and this is what sort of really has stimulated that community into action over there. So it was pleasing to see the debate go the way it did, with both sides of the House commending that something needs to be done. But nothing was actually passed as to when something will be done, as it normally is. But the lowered speed restrictions on the rail crossings, particularly this side of November and out the other side of Springdale, are a result of their meeting with it. They've actually they were passed to be done back in 2009, believe it or not, and but actually they're actually getting starting to get done now. So, but there's a big number of rail crossings, something like another 900 odd rail crossings, which are which really should have some sort of more detailed lights or something or other on, plus also speed restrictions. But you start to think of all the other crossings that are only on back roads and side roads and private roads. You're looking at probably another 2,200 crossings there as well. So it's going to be a big job. They've started by putting out yellow notice about yay big for people to put onto rail crossing gates on private properties, just as a reminder that they've really got to take note and look at crossings before they go over them. So hopefully these things will be all towards helping less and less accidents happening. So it was good to catch up. The mayor from Bill West from Cowra sends his regards, and also the mayor from Grenfell sends his regards across to us all as well. So it was, yeah, but there was a lot there and a lot that listened and elsewhere as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Winkin. We do appreciate you representing Temora Shire at that gathering in Grenfell, and it's important that we do have, wherever possible, someone flying the flag for us at those events. So thank you for giving up your time. Councillor Judd.
Could I ask Councillor Winky a question? Apparently John Holland Rail has lost the contract for looking after railways. Is that going to affect things like the railway crossings and the signage and that, or?
Thank you. Councillor Winky.
I think that's yet to be sorted out. Perhaps the engineering department here might be able to give us a bit more information, but I think they're losing their contract end of January next year, I believe. But I'm not sure even who's taking it on from there on, so I really don't know.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether the engineer, are you aware of that, the engineer?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I definitely am aware. So the contract expires in January, as you said, and it's being taken over by UGL. It'll pretty much be business as usual. In terms of the signage and stuff, we have an interface agreement with the rail authority, so we'll have an interface agreement with UGL, and so it's really up to council to maintain the signage and line marking and stuff like that at the approaches to rail crossings. But the rail authority looks after things like the signals and anything that's in the immediate. I think it's 1 metre outside the rail, outside the outside rail. But certainly I've been doing some work on the interface agreement, and we haven't entered into that yet. I think it's going to happen at a REROC level. And yeah, that'll sort of happen in the next, couple of months.
Thank you. Further delegates report. Councillor Slay. Councillor Slay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Thursday the 4th, with the Director of Administration and Finance, I attended a meeting in Wagga concerning the future of the Riverina Regional Library. I have to say it was a very, very positive meeting. The negativity that had led to the separation from Wagga was quite absent. There was a great sense of, we are going to do this and we're going to do better than it was ever done before. So if anybody hears comments around about how sad it is that Wagga has left, it will remind me of what it's like if you get an abscess tooth removed. Not necessarily a bad thing. Oh, does that go against
I've read
anything I said?
I've read those opening remarks.
I've just remembered, yes, I just remembered the opening remarks. Sorry, I was interrupted with a phone call. I'll stay home from the next meeting. But it was a very, very worthwhile meeting. The Director might have further comments to make about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Slay. Where do I go from there? Well, thank you for those frank reflections, and let's be very frank. Yes, it certainly has been noticed right across the region that our neighbouring centre has frustrated us and disappointed us at times, and I think I shared with council that rang the mayor personally to express those views in a civil but firm manner, and he certainly acknowledged some frustration, but believed that was the best decision for his council and his community, and that's fair enough. However, it is exciting to hear from you, Councillor Slay, and I know the General Manager and the Director of Administration and Finance have expressed, as have other mayors and GMs across the region, the exact same enthusiasm as you have just articulated about the future of this new organisation. So I don't know if the General Manager or the Director have anything that they'd like to add in relation to Riverina Regional Library? No? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Slay. Any further delegates' reports? Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Tuesday night, I attended the AGM of the Fruit Fly Committee. I didn't think that we could fill all positions, but the President was happy to stand again. Maxie Hoskinson is retiring, so we had to find a Secretary-Treasurer, and we did. So the committee lives on.
Excellent.
Which is great. I also went to the Art Prize, and it was, fantastic to see so many entries. Amanda was saying that she's going to have to probably split it and do a youth children's one and then an adult section, because 350 entries, it was pretty chock-a-block. So fantastic to see. So, yes, thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Councillor Reinhold, for that, and thank you again for continuing to represent us at the Temora Fight the Fruit Fly Committee. We appreciate it. Thank you. Further delegates' reports, Councillor McLaren.
Just to re-emphasise the art exhibition evening, what a success it was, but also to give a shout out to two members of TADVAC that spent Wednesday, Thursday, Friday down there hanging and writing out all the tickets, and that was Bob Brabham and Judy Gorton, and they put in a lot of hours unsung, and I just wanted to put it on record that they put in a big effort to help make that. So Amanda was ably assisted by a number of volunteers, so thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. It's important that we do acknowledge those that go that extra mile, so thank you for sharing that. Further delegates' reports, Councillor Judd.
I'm just going to make a comment on the art show that probably this is one of the first times that we had 7 artists from Mary Park in the display this year. So they've been coming in this past year or so for classes, and that's and they were quite chuffed their first exhibition. So
That's great. Thanks, Councillor Judd. I wasn't aware of that. That's great. That really is great to hear. Thank you very much, Councillor Judd. Further delegates' reports? If not, let us now proceed to page 10 of your business paper, staff reports. Motion receiving staff reports. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Smith moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. We go over to page 11 and the General Manager's report 10.1, the calendar of events, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As written, councillors, just a particular note there that the events in January, the councillors' induction training, the council meeting on the 13th, and of course the presentation of the resident satisfaction on the 18th. So there's three events if you put in your calendar for later. We have sent a letter out to each of the candidates advising them of those dates so that because they are important that they're included in the everyone attends those. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr General Manager. Councillor Winkie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just looking here, December the 17th, I think our Christmas party's on the 16th, according to this.
That's the council staff one's on Friday the 17th, and then
Council staff,
yes,
sorry.
and then council laws is on what would normally be our council meeting night at Zest. And thank you to the executive assistant for arranging that for us. An invitation, I think, are on the councillors' desks. Thank you. So, page 11, the bottom of page 11, it has a recommendation for council to consider. Councillor McLaren, seconded Councillor Reinhold, moved and seconded that we adopt the recommendation that is noting the report. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 12, 10.2, seals, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As written, councillors, with the addition of a late item, and that's a deed of compensation for a property on Manu Road. The three to be undertaken, or the seal to be affixed, the three documents.
Thank you. Councillor Judd, Councillor Oliver moved and seconded that we adopt the recommendation, page 12. Although further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 13, 10.3, the end of term report, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the end of term report is presented as written. As you know, that's a requirement of the Local Government Act to provide a report on how councillors responded to the Community Strategic Plan. You'll see there in the document there. It is a shortened version of the document because being in caretaker mode, there is a section on a mayoral statement and councillors' reflections and so on. So they're held off out of this document until after the elections, and then it's included on the website.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. General Manager, and I think the documents come up exceedingly well. And I think councillors, it's great for us as councillors and for all of our staff to reflect on a very, very, very full-on 5 years and one of tremendous achievement. The General Manager?
And also to note, Mr Mayor, this is the end of term report, but it's supported by the ongoing quarterly reviews that are done and presented to Council through those 5 years of operation.
Thank you. Councillors, there is a recommendation, page 13, that we adopt the end of term report. Councillor Winkie, you have moved that way, seconded the Deputy Mayor. Thank you, moved and seconded. Further discussion? Councillor Reinhold.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, just on page 19, you've got ancestry by birth, and we've got Australia, English, Filipino, Kiwi, Scottish. Is Kiwi really
So it should be
appropriate?
New Zealand. Yes, good point, Councillor Reinhold. The General Manager. Page 19 down the bottom, ancestry of birth. And it's on page 19, so down the bottom where it says Kiwi as opposed to New Zealander. Or something else. It is.
It actually does. I didn't notice that actually. That's straight out of the census.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That is very interesting. Anyway, thank you, Councillor Reinhold. I think that if councils, it probably is worth an email to query the ABS, because it does seem rather odd. Thank you. See, they do read it, Mr. General Manager. Any other discussion, councillors? If not, we have a motion moved by Councillor Winkie and the Deputy Mayor. So I'll put that to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And Council does commend the General Manager and all those that have supported in relation to compiling that document, because again, it all takes a great deal of time. So thank you, Mr. General Manager and team. Nothing further of an urgent late nature?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, let's now go to page 38, Engineering Services, which does have nil there, but I understand there's an urgent late item that I understand from the General Manager. Yeah, from the General Manager about the engineer.
Yes, we're talking about the speed signs.
Yeah, thank you. The engineer.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Actually, you will see in your email, I sent you a quick email. Basically, Transport for New South Wales have asked Council for feedback by the 24th of November in relation to the speed zone change on the Old Cootamundra Road. It's previously been to Council. I can't really see. The only thing I thought Council might question is the length of the 80k speed zone, which is 1.8 kilometres, takes it back out to Reynolds Lane, but that's the minimum. The 80k speed zone has a minimum length, and that's 1.8 kilometres. So anyway, the email's there. If you have any objection, if you can just respond to that email, and then I will pass that on to Transport for New South Wales. Other than that, it will happen pretty much straight away.
So what, sorry, Mr. Engineer, what email?
Did I not send it? No, I'm sure I sent Council an email this afternoon.
Oh, this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so therefore you'd like Council to respond by, what, close of business tomorrow or something?
The 24th, it's got to be responded to by, yeah.
Yep, okay. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. Thank you. Comments, questions at this point, councillors? We'll have a look at that email later on. Thank you. So then nothing else of an urgent late nature, Mr. Engineer? No, thank you. Let's then go over to page 39, the Environmental Services Department report, 12.1, External Grant Funding Policy, the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Presenting a policy on behalf of the Town Planner, who has been exhibiting a policy addressing a best practice shortcoming identified in our internal audit process. Draft policy has previously been considered by Council at the June meeting. It's been placed on public exhibition for the statutory period. No submissions were received, and recommending that be adopted as exhibited. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Director, and I'm glad the engineer clarified that he is on call. Councillors, there is a recommendation there on the bottom of page 39 for you to consider that Council adopt the external grant funding policy as exhibited, or unless there's an alternate. Councillor Smith, you're moving. Thank you. So Councillor Smith is moving the recommendation. Second, Councillor Winkie. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Is there anything of urgent late nature from the Director?
Nothing, Mr Mayor.
No. Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillors, we proceed over to page 46. The Department of Administration and Finance, 13.1, the financial statements, the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the financial statements have been completed and audited, and we've heard from the auditor just earlier in the meeting. Happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much. Councillors, you see the audited financial statements, and obviously you note that the auditor did mention in big bold print, as she's done right across rural regional New South Wales, about the significant audit issues relating to rural firefighting equipment not being recognised in financial statements. However, I understand that certainly attending the Country Mayors Association AGM a couple of weeks ago, that there is a firm view that the status quo should continue in terms of not having them reflected in our financial statements. The Director?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. So I know at 2020 financial statement preparation time, there were 68 councils who did not recognise their rural fire service assets in their financial statements, because we don't control them in any way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at 2021. But I know at the internal audit meeting, the auditors said that all of their clients who had RFS assets, they also did not recognise, none of the Crow clients recognise their RFS assets. So it's not unique to Temora. It's a statewide issue.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Councillors, comments, questions in relation to the audit statements? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to ask the Director what she thought of the comment on page 53, where they say that rural firefighting equipment, specifically the red fleet vehicles, is controlled by the Council and should be recognised in their financial statements. This is supported by the requirements of the Rural Fires Act and the service agreements. So do our service agreements between Council and RFS say that we control the red fleet vehicles, and that's what the auditor's trying to say?
Thank you. The Director of Administration and Finance.
I think the wording that the Audit Office is relying on is that the assets are vested in the local council, but yeah, that doesn't mean that we control them. We don't control when we buy them. We don't control what we buy. We don't get the proceeds on sale. We can't direct their use. The fire at our tip is a perfect example. When we were not allowed to use a fire truck to put out a fire. So yeah, we don't control them, and we don't prepare our financial statements in accordance with the RFS Act. We prepare our statements in accordance with the Local Government Act and in accordance with the Code of Accounting Practice. So I will argue that point, as my predecessor would have.
Yeah, just can hear Mr. Firth. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Councillor McGowan. Thank you, Madam Director. You articulated yourself very, very well, and I think certainly this current council continues to support that position. Hope the new council will do so as well. But thank you. Any further comments, questions in relation to the audited financial statements? If not, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the report.
Thank you. So you're moving the adoption of the recommendation that
Yes,
Council
Mr.
receive and note the audit report for the year ended 30 June 2021. Deputy Mayor, thank you. You've seconded the motion. Moved and seconded. Is further discussion? Just in further discussion, I said it earlier, but Madam Director, if you would pass on Councillors' warm thanks to all of your team, and our particular thanks goes to you. We know we see your vehicle here often of a weekend, working hard for council and for our community, and we know that you've stepped right up. So again, congratulations to you. So if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. Now, over to page 66, 13.2, Riverina Regional Library Contributions, the Director of Administration Finance.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this is just a report regarding an executive meeting of the Riverina Regional Library. It's as written, and Councillor Slade referred to it in his delegate report. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Madam Director. Councillor Slade, did you have anything you'd like to add? No, not at this time. The General Manager, do you have anything you wish to add?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Judd.
Just a question to our delegates or the General Manager. Is there any chance that with a new Wagga City Council to be elected that they might have a change of heart in the future?
Thanks, Councillor Judd. I'll go to the General Manager.
I'd suspect not, Councillor Judd. This is following a review that was undertaken of the library service in Wagga some time ago, and the recommendation from that was to go alone as a library service. That was accepted by council, and I think not unanimously, but very solidly. So I think it's highly unlikely that it would be reversed.
Thanks, Mr. General Manager. Thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillors, the actual recommendation that the Director spoke to me earlier is suggesting that Council note the report and further endorse the actions of the RRL Working Party. So you'll see there's a potential, there's an obvious budget increase for us in relation to RRL, but understand that there's some good news with one other council coming on board. The Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there is one council that's discussions are quite well advanced with, and it's looking quite likely that they will come on board. So that's going to their council meeting this month. And then there are two other councils that discussions are only very, very preliminary with. So that could be another year or two down the track if they were to decide to go that way. But the one is looking really quite hopeful. And so that's what that $142,000 estimate is based on, is if that council comes on board. Yeah.
Thanks, Madam Director. So obviously those funds will be able to be sourced. And I know how much that the RRL means to Temora Shire, and certainly I know Councillor Slay has been a strong advocate for this organisation, and obviously as a region there seems to be renewed enthusiasm going forward, although be at an extra cost. But again, if this other new one comes in and potential other councils that are being talked to, we hope and pray that they might come on board too to further enhance and strengthen the RRL. So, councillors, there's a recommendation on your screen that for you to consider, that council note the report and endorse the actions of the Working Party of the Riverina Regional Library. The Deputy Mayor has moved that way. Second, Councillor Winkie, thank you, moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's proceed over to page 67, 13.3, the marketing campaign. The Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the report's as written. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. Councillors, any comments or questions? I will note, Councillor, something I've learnt today, and I'm not sure whether you're aware of it, but our own Economic Development Manager is, in fact, the current chairman of the Visit Riverina Board. So I learnt something new today. So there you go. That's just for your information. Councillors, the manager has their recommendations. You can see on the bottom of page 67 that council can consider, and it's sort of not technically locking us in. So, councillors, what is your wish? Recommendation there, or is there an alternate? The Deputy Mayor?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think as we hopefully coming out of this COVID restrictions and so forth, I think now's the ideal time to be getting in and really promoting not ourselves but the whole region. So, yeah, I think this is probably a good way of doing it. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And you are quite right. And the fact that it's not an extra, if we did proceed, or if the council of the day did proceed down that path, it's not an extra financial burden on the existing budget. There's already funds there ring-fenced within existing framework. So, seconded, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Further discussion. Councillor Judd. Oh, hang on, sorry, is someone else on? Oh, sorry, thank you. Councillor Judd.
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll support the motion. I was helping on duty down at the Op Shop Museum at Airy Park this morning and had a great influx of visitors, particularly from Sydney and the South Coast. And a lot of them are stopping in Temora and doing day trips around. So they're all just been breaking to get out of, look around New South Wales. So it's probably, and as the Deputy Mayor said, it's a great opportunity now to promote it. So anyway, thank you.
No, thanks very much, Councillor Judd, and that is spot on. It is great to see these travellers coming to our shire, spending money, and it really is appreciated, and that is for sure. Well, councillors, the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Oliver have moved the recommendation at the bottom of page 67. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, let's go over to page 96, 13.4, the quarterly budget review. The Director of Administration Finance.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Quarterly budget review for the quarter ending 30th of September. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks. Thank you, Madam Director. Comments or questions in relation to the quarterly budget review? If not, there is a recommendation, Council, on page 96 for you to consider, that being that Council adopts a quarterly budget review for the 1st of July 2021 to the 30th of September 2021. Councillor Oliver, you've moved that way, thank you. Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Smith, thank you, moved. Seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, the General Manager's been briefing me and doing some homework in relation to the population figures in relation to New Zealand that Councillor Reinhold raised earlier. And as the advice we've received is that that is an internationally accepted reference to New Zealand, that being Kiwi. So that's news to us, but thank you for raising it. We've learned something because, yes, it is a bit of a surprise. So thank you for that. Now, nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Councillors, let's now proceed to page 109, correspondence. 14.1, rescission motion, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As written, Mr Mayor, there was two motions at the last meeting in relation to events, the Teabeg Christmas Fair and the Area Park Christmas Tree, where Council's resolutions were to waive 50% of the costs, support the event, but waive 50% of the costs. At the meeting, there was a rescission motion lodged by 3 councillors. The effect of that rescission motion is to stay any action in relation to the motions that were passed, and then the motion would be brought back, the rescission motion is brought back to this meeting. If that motion is passed, that will set aside the previous resolution, so you'll have no motions on the books. And then we've also included, in the event that that does occur, copies of the 2 reports that went to that meeting for Council to reconsider.
Should be on your desks, councillors. Thank you very much, Mr General Manager. So, councillors, do we have a motion, please, to rescind? We need a motion. That was to stay the decision, of course, and now we need a motion to formally. Councillor McLaren.
I'm happy to move to rescind.
Thank you. And that is the resolutions 286-2021 and 287-2021. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. in discussion on the motion, I will declare non-pecuniary as a patron of TBEG and as a financial member of TBEG.
I'll declare a pecuniary, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. The Director of Environmental Services declaring a pecuniary interest. He sits on the Executive Committee, and as does Councillor Reinhold, sit on the Executive, and Councillor Judd is a patron of TBEG also. And also, of course, yes, Erie Park's community member. So those are noted, and noted that the Director of Environmental Services vacated the chamber. So we have a motion. Oh, well, if you're on the Executive, Councillor Reinhold, I wonder whether Councillor, just seeking some advice, whether Councillor Reinhold should be seconding the motion.
Do you hold an executive position, Councillor Reinhold?
No, just council.
As the council delegate?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. No, thank you very much. Just make sure we're right. So thanks, Councillor Reinhold. So we have a motion moved by Councillor McLaren and Councillor Reinhold that those two motions, as I've indicated, 286 2021 and 287 2021, be rescinded. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Councillor Smith, you're declaring your vote against. Would you like that recorded? Thank you, Councillor Smith. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. We now go to the first item of correspondence in relation to that, which is the event application, TBEG Christmas Fair, and I defer to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, since that resolution has now been passed, the rescission motion, the decisions are now set aside, and there are no decisions on the books currently. So there are two. The first one being the TBEG.
Yep.
The TBEG Christmas Fair, and for Council's consideration again.
Thanks, Mr General Manager. Councillors, you have the TBEG Christmas Fair before you. I will also add, for listeners, particularly to this recording, that there was new information given to Council at that meeting that certainly educated Council further, and we appreciate that information being brought to light. The General Manager?
Oh, I should also note, Mr Mayor, that there will be a report come back to clarify and take out the ambiguity in the current policy of Council. That'll come back to the new Council, however, in probably January.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. So, councillors, you have the event application before you from the Tomorrow Business Enterprise Group for their Christmas Fair, Friday the 10th of December, and you can see their request in front of you. And I think, to be frank, councillors, this is an event I would suggest that that our community will be very, very much looking forward to, spending money, catching up with family, with friends, with community. Certainly be something special, that's for sure. Councillor Reinhold.
I'd like to move that council support the TBEG Christmas Fair.
Thank you.
2021.
As per their request.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Reinhold has moved that. Seconded Councillor Winkie. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried, and I'm sure that all of us, Tomorrow Shire Council, would wish TBEG a most successful fair, and I'm sure that they will be most grateful for Council's support. Thank you. Let's now proceed to event application, Area Park Christmas Tree, and the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very similar request, Mr Mayor, for Council's consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Oliver, if you collect the Director of Environmental Services. Councillor Winky. Sorry. Okay, Councillor Winky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I'd like to move that we accede to the request of the $1,179 for the cost of the area park application for their Christmas tree event out there.
Thank you, Councillor Winky. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, just to remind Council and to listeners that of course there is that donations budget, Madam Director, that these funds would come out of. The Director?
There are budget allocations for
yes.
both of these numbers. So the
That's
Christmas fair has its own budget allocation, as does the area park Christmas tree.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Separate
I
to
forgot
the-
about that. That's right.
Separate
To
to
the community donations. Yeah, no, you're quite right. Thank you. So, Councillor Winky and Councillor Reinhold have moved that we accede to the request of the Area Park Community Projects Committee Incorporated. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, let's proceed over to page 110, 14.2, the Salvation Army. The only declaration I would make, I'm not directly involved with Salvation Army, but I'm chairman of their Red Shield Appeal Committee, so I just declare a non-pecuniary, and I'd call the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As read, councillors, each year the Salvation Army hold a luncheon at the Town Hall for people, for people, and they're seeking our support to hold that event by reducing the fees for the Town Hall.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think, given the Christmas spirit, I think the Salvation Army does a tremendous job for those who don't have close family around them to help celebrate, and I think we should donate the fees for the use of the Town Hall.
Thank you. So you're saying 100%, Councillor McLaren? Sorry. Councillor Winky, can you just...
Oh.
Sorry. Councillor McLaren.
I do think 100% because the more they can save by paying the fees, the more they can contribute to their luncheon.
Back to the community in some other way. Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Councillor Winky, you...
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, we need to remember too that this is only the second year that they've requested to use the Town Hall, and it's been because of COVID. They've normally used their own hall, but it's just too small for the amount of number that they have on the day. And look, they give up their time on Christmas Day. How many of us would give up our time on Christmas Day to do something like they do to help the homeless and those that are on their own? I think it's a worthy cause, and would fully get behind it.
Thanks very much, Councillor Winky. Yes, I certainly agree with Councillor McLaren and Councillor Winky's remarks. It is a very, very, very special event, and I think it's also impressive under normal circumstances that Salvation Army that also go up to Greenstone Narrabri Lodge and sing Christmas carols to the residents and staff, and it's just a lovely, lovely. It's a lovely, lovely sound, and again, as you said, Councillor Winky, they are giving up their family time, and it is a huge sacrifice. That's for sure. But again, you know, being mindful that traditionally there is, or recently, that we have that policy of 50% for the Town Hall fees. However, the Council of the Day can determine what they so wish. Councillor Judd, you're right.
We've got a second motion.
Oh, okay. Well, we haven't got a motion. We've just had two speakers that are. Well, I didn't hear anyone saying that they're going to move it. Okay, so Councillor McLaren, you're actually moving that we accede to the request for a donation of 100% of the Town Hall hire fees. Thank you, so I'll take that as a motion. And Councillor Winker, you're seconding the motion, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 112, 14.3, event application, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This, Council, is the annual march, Anzac Day march. Similar to the previous requests, consideration be given to reducing or waiving the fees for this event.
And of course, noting our executive assistants carrying out an honorary role as Secretary of the Anzac Day Committee, noting that as an interest. Yeah. Thank you. Councillors. Councillor Smith.
Move that we exceed the request and go back, pay back their fee so that they have no fee.
Yep. So donate the fees.
Back rather than request.
Exactly. But we accede to the request and donate those fees back to the Temora Anzac Day Committee. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Slay, you're seconding the motion. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. And we do thank Mrs Rands and the members of that committee for staging what is, well, under normal circumstances, a very special day. That's right. Thank you very much. Now, is there any urgent correspondence that's deemed? I beg your pardon. Page 114, 14.4, Area Park Australia Day ceremony. Thank you, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This, Council, is the Australia Day ceremony. It's held out at Area Park. There's a small event fee of $50 being charged to the event. It's actually included in our budget, the cost of the event, and they've asked that that be waived or charged back to Council's event allocation.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. So are you, I know we have the Chairman and the Treasurer of the Australia Council here. The Treasurer, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, the General Manager's quite right. It is covered in our budget, so I'll move that the request be what? I don't know. Ignored?
Accede to the request.
Yeah, donated back. That'll do.
Thank you. Accede to the request. Councillor Smith.
Second that.
Thank you. Moved, seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. You have.
There's no other correspondence. I didn't get the late correspondence. So.
Yeah, no. So you don't have anything of urgent, late nature in terms of correspondence, Mr General Manager?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillors, let's go to page, 115, councillors, has now been moved to confidential, the notice of motion naming Arts Precinct, so that will now be in closed session due to the fact that it's mentioning family name. So that will be considered in our pink papers. So then we proceed over to page 117, 15.2, notice of motion, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, as written.
Thank you. So the notice of motion, councillors, that you see from Councillor McLaren, that Temora Shire Council seek expressions of interest from community-based not-for-profit art and cultural groups for regular meetings at the new Arts Precinct. Such expressions of interest should include any commensurate contributions that the group may be able to contribute to the maintenance of the facility. So, now the General Manager, do you have anything to add to that? Because I know you're working on this master plan. General Manager.
Nothing to add, Mr Mayor, just to say that I agree with the principle of what's being proposed. It's certainly something that we agree entirely that there needs to be, it needs to be affordable, and we need to widely advertise it. So the promotion of the facility is going to be extremely important.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Councillor McLaren, you'd like to move your notice of motion?
Yes, I would like to move my notice of motion.
Thank you.
Did you want me to talk on it or?
Well, when
later?
we get a seconder, thank you. Councillor Reinhold, you're seconding the motion. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the proof of the pudding is in the art exhibition we had recently with the 350 works of art to prove the value of art and the interest of it in the community. So it's a very important transition period from the old Scout Hall being used by TADVAC from the previous 10 years, and I think I'd like to make sure that the emphasis is still on a community-based art centre rather than going down the track of commercial-based art services. I know there's a lot of offerings in the private sector, and I think that should be the domain of the private sector. So I know the success of TADVAC has been on their low-cost model, membership-based model with small weekly fees to cover costs. They've been successful in that for 10 years. They've managed to raise, despite this low-cost model, they've managed to raise over $70,000 over the 10 years, which is attributed, they've painted the inside, they've done the floor, put tracking and lighting and air conditioners and a second-hand kitchen, and they've really maintained that building without any asking council for any financial support to do that. So they've been very self-contained. So I appreciate that the federal government recently gave us a significant grant to upgrade the facility and extend the space there, and that was supported by a plan that was made with input from a community committee that was made up of lots of members of the community. They all had their input, and I think that we've given TADVAC the opportunity to say when they would like to meet, and I think we owe it to the other members of the working party who had contributed and on which basis we sought the grant to expand the availability of the centre to all community groups who want to do art and cultural activities there. I think we should extend the invitation for them to express interest, for them to use the facility too, whether it be a monthly meeting or a weekly meeting. I think it shouldn't be exclusively for the previous user, given the huge amount of public funds that have going into it. And this was just a notice of motion to start that expression of interest to see. And I specifically was after not-for-profit groups. I don't want, commercial enterprises taking community space for that, but that was basically where I was coming from.
Thank you very much, Councillor McLaren. I do recall exactly what you've articulated is what this current council, I think the genuine theme is that we do want all not-for-profit Temora Shire community groups to be able to utilise that facility in an affordable way. I mean, obviously, it's got to come at a cost, but obviously I'm sure it'll be at a reasonable cost. So thank you very much, Councillor McLaren. Further discussion? If the Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I was sort of on the understanding that was just the principle behind going ahead with the whole our community centre in the first place. That it was going to be a community-based building that and anybody who wanted to use it would be able to use it. So I think it's this is only just, I suppose, backing up what we plan on doing anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought too, Mr Deputy Mayor, as part of the management plan. It's always been council's view to do exactly that, but I suppose this just formalises that particular process. So, is there further discussion? No? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Now, over to page 119 now, business without notice for the final time for this current council. So we will start with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, just thank everybody for the camaraderie and the last 5 years as far as councils go. I think it's been one of the most exciting and stressful and you name it certainly of my terms on council. Everyone knows with COVID, it's certainly it's thrown everything up in the air, but at the same time, I think we've achieved more in this last term than we've ever achieved. And I like to say everything has a silver lining, and I think we've done quite well out of that silver lining. So, I wish everyone, those standing, all the best in the next elections, and thank Councillor Slade for his involvement in the last 2 terms. So, wish him all the best. So, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. We appreciate those kind words. I now go to Councillor Reinhold.
I'm going to cry.
No tears in the chamber, thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Sinclair. I just have one little thing I want to ask is, I've had a few people ask me about our Local Heroes program that we have on our Facebook page, recordings of people around the Shire, that can we have some more women? And I said, well, you have a think about it and let me know who you suggest. So I'm asking Council's permission if I can talk to Kate Slapp and give her a list of women to get in contact with.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. I understood, Mr General Manager, I'll defer to you in a minute, that my recollection is that any of us are allowed to pass on any recommendations to the Communications Officer, Mrs Slapp. I've certainly done it in the past. I don't know whether others have, so I wouldn't have thought there's an issue. But Mr General Manager?
No problems at all, Councillor Reinhold. If any member of the public or councillors who believe that someone's got a good story to tell in that area, we'd be very keen to hear.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. It is a fantastic program, and I think it's been particularly pleasing to see those recycled from, heroes gone by. That, and some of them aren't with us, certainly physically, and it is lovely just to hear their story and their reflections. So thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Nothing further? No, thank you. Councillor Judd, business without notice.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to support the Deputy Mayor's comments about the last 5-year term. I've been on a number of council terms, but probably the last 5 years have certainly achieved a number of significant projects. Every term probably had a major project we achieved, but to achieve so many projects in 5 years, I think it's been phenomenal. And it's, I'd also like to thank my fellow councillors for their support, for what we've done. So, and the staff as well. It's been great to work with everyone. Councillor, the Mayor mentioned the last meeting for Councillor Slade. I'd like to just say my comments about Councillor Slade as well tonight. I remember when Councillor Slade stood for his first term of Parliament, council, and he said, I'm only going to be here for 1 term, I'm in and out, And I said, Dennis, I said, you don't take 4 years to learn the ropes, you need to stop around for a second term. So anyway, thankfully he did, and I think what we have achieved in the last 5 years, Dennis, I think shows that it was worth stopping around. And as the Mayor said, it's a shame that health hasn't been the best at times, and we do hope that things improve and we get to the bottom of them. Council and staff, one thing that you might realise is that as an out-of-town councillor, many times you're stuck in Temora with nowhere to go. You're waiting for meetings, waiting for events, and especially in the last 5 years, I've had a open invitation to the Sleigh House to come and have a cup of tea with Dennis and Margaret and Anne-Marie. And it's been great to have go down there and fill in time waiting for the next event, and, when you live half an hour from Temora, you just can't slip home and come back here for the next event. You just, it's a nuisance a lot of times to hang around, but it's been great to meet Dennis in his office, and we've chewed the fat over a number of issues, many of them not council, we solve the problems of the world, so anyway, thanks Dennis for your time, and I'm hoping that maybe a cup of teas will continue in the future, so that's, so it's been great having have a friend like Dennis Slay in council, so as council remember, we had last week we had a tour of Area Park in Temora, and I think it opened our eyes as what's been happening in both towns. In Temora, we had a look at the new library extension, progress in the Arts Centre, and work out at the aerodrome. And then we looked at Area Park, and I think probably the highlight was probably Area Park was the looking at the new preschool. I'm still amazed, the small town Area Park has got a new preschool, and when you talk to the director, Leanne Nixon, it's fully booked out, it's amazing. And we were there on the Tuesday, and anyway, I'm glad to report that on the Friday, about midday, they got official approval they can move in. And so it was a busy weekend on the Saturday, despite the rain, they packed up everything else and they opened up the new facility on the Monday. So I think they're very happy, and it's a great facility as we saw. And I think all councillors were amazed by just what has been achieved in Temora and Area Park, and it's been a great term, and as Councillor Sinclair said, I endorsed, wish all the best in the coming election, and also all our candidates as well. So hopefully you get a good council. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd, and for all of your reflections and remarks. I also acknowledge and endorse your remarks, particularly in relation to the tour that we had of Temora and Area Park projects. It was a real eye-opener and reminded us of how productive and how busy that we've been as a council and as a community. So, but we thank particularly Councillor Reinhold for your delicious scones, and Mrs. Helen Judd, who looked after us and hosted us in the CWA rooms. But honestly, they were delicious scones. We've missed them from living and giving, to be quite frank, but it was very kind of you to do that for your fellow councillors, so thanks. But thank you, Councillor Judd. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a first thanks to the Engineering Department for the grading of Mandamar Road. It's looking really good, the southern section. The Bland section's still a nightmare, but our end's looking really good. And secondly, I'd like to echo the sentiments from the Deputy Mayor. I think this council's been a very representative council of the community. I think we've had some great debates over the years, and whilst we haven't always agreed, I think we've had a very selfless approach to our work, and we've always had the best interests of the council, Shire community in our own hearts, and I've appreciated that. In regards to Councillor Slay, his intellect and compassion and worldly view that he's brought to council's been something that I think that I'll personally miss. But he's going on to spend quality time with his family and look after his health, and that's more important. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Councillor McLaren, for your reflections, and you've summed that up very nicely. Thank you. I now go to Councillor Winky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Having been one of the new kids on the block, along with Councillor Reinhold and Councillor McLaren 5 years ago, and I was told back then that, look, it's a breeze being on council, you only have 2 meetings a month. 60 months have gone past, and I'm still waiting for that 1 month to come. I think I'll enjoy it when it does. But no, look, it's been interesting. as Councillor Judd said, it takes 4 years to get to know it. Well, at least we had 1 year with an extra year that we sort of knew what we were doing, so that was a pretty good thing, wasn't it, really? But Councillor Slay, thank you very much for your mentoring us younger ones. We really appreciate that, and certainly wish you all the best in your retirement from council. And I'm sure that you will enjoy it. But other than that, look, it's been a very busy 5 years, but a very enjoyable 5 years, I must admit. And I think the 4 years, I'll cut it back to about 18 months. I reckon it took me to get the swing of things, but after that it was pretty good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Winky, and you're quite right. As the newbies on the block, you and Councillor McLaren and Councillor Reinhold, it's certainly be a term that you'll never ever forget. And I think 99% for very positive and solid reasons. And you've all stepped up, and we're very grateful. Very grateful. So thank you very much. And forgive and forget. That's my motto. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Councillor Oliver, Business Without Notice.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to echo the comments of previous speakers and wish Councillor Slay all the very best for the future. And I think we have achieved a lot in the last 5 years, certainly. I think what we have achieved, in my view, is the confidence that exudes in this community at the moment. It's you've got new businesses opening up, expanding their operations, and outside investors coming into this community and spending millions and millions of dollars, and they don't do that, unless there's something there. So I think that's a reflection of what we've achieved over the last 5 years. But anyway, back to roads, rates and rubbish. Ashleford and Hine Street, this is to the engineering department. I think there's a water leak up there. Rod, there's the road's getting rather chopped up. Buses drive over that every day. It's part of our bus route. But even in the dry times, there was water laying there for an extended period of time. So perhaps just
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor Oliver, it's duly noted, and thanks very much for your reflections. Councillor Oliver, is I think you're a second. No, is this your third? 110 meetings. And counting. Not as many as Councillor Judd, that's right. Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. Now, to Councillor Slay, for the final time in your local government career, Councillor Slay, Business Without Notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Slay. Thank you.
And now, I'm not quite sure who's appropriate that it go to, but I think it's probably to Chris as the Environment Manager. Just saying that the current arrangement out at the tip is showing far greater consideration to the users, of whom I've been one for a long time. I don't know who came up with it, but we've now got a much better area to dump our rubbish. There's a great level area, whereas before you were tending to be squeezed between people dumping trees in the wrong place and so on. Whatever it is, whoever it is, I think that I've come to enjoy my regular trips to the tip. While I'm there, I'd just like to make the comment about the tip staff, most of whom I couldn't name, but all of whom I could probably recognise, and every one of them, I think, does us proud here in Temora, because while I think they've got a pretty horrible job in many ways, particularly in this funny weather we've been getting lately, they never seem to grizzle, to groan. They're always ready there to support and to help. So I say a very, very special thanks to your group and to the people who work with you in the council. Sometimes when you hear in Parliament, if you ever listen to Parliament, you hear Speaker 1, Speaker 2, Speaker 3, Speaker 4, Speaker 5. They all say exactly the same thing. We're opposed to whatever it might be that they're opposed to. And then Speaker 6 says, I agree with the previous 5 speakers. Well, I was going to say that, about the recent draft of speakers here. I think you've been magnificent in your perception, in your undoubted legitimate generosity. Now, seriously, I would like to say at the end of 110 meetings and maybe I haven't been to every one of those. I'd like to say thank you very much for the privilege of serving on the council, and it has been a privilege. Without taking up too much time, I came onto the council for one simple reason. When I was first transferred to Temora to take over at St Anne's, it was made very, very clear to me that the reason that our school had been closed down was lack of numbers. It seemed hard to understand why it was being reopened again when the numbers weren't at that stage present. And it was all put down to the influence of the panel that came in to speak to the director, to speak to the Archbishop, and above all, the Archbishop identified Peter Spears, and he said to me, and Dennis, what really impressed me, your local mayor came in and he spoke on your behalf. I mean, he's not even a Catholic. And I thought, well, it would spoil the conversation if I went on to say, nor are his grandchildren, but they're at St Anne's. But it's really been a tremendous opportunity I wanted to say to the to the council, thank you for the work that Peter Spears and that whole committee performed so that we could open St Anne's, and St Anne's has gone from strength to strength. So I think after 4 years, I thought, right, okay, I've said thank you. You don't want to repeat yourself too much. But then Nigel got at me and said, no, you haven't really learnt the tricks yet. Come along and give it a second go. So I'm glad that I did give it a go. I am grateful for the opportunity of working with all of you on this last council. I'm particularly grateful for the support, the dedication of the senior staff, and I hope when we talk about senior staff that we always remember Mrs Rands, because I'm not quite sure in the pecking order where she fits, but in the performance area she's up there on top. But the rest of you can probably get up to her standards eventually. So thank you everybody for what you have done. Thank you for the opportunities, and I wish you all well in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councillor Slay, for those warm and considered words. And I reiterate what I said in the Merrill Minute, that we're grateful for your commitment and dedication, obviously to council, but also to your roles within the wider community in terms of organisations outside of council, which have been many and varied, and we're very grateful for that too. Thank you. We now proceed to Councillor Smith.
Yes, I'll endorse the remarks of everybody around this table, because, it's, to me, the last 5 years has seemed to slip by pretty quick. And the best of all, this is the best council that I know for miles around, because everybody can have a different opinion in here. After the council meeting, we all go and buy tea and have the tea together, and it's just like the 9 wise men,
We're going to say the Brady Bunch.
We have difference of opinion, but after that, it's everybody. You don't hold a grudge or whatever. If you win or lose or whatever happens, it's a team. And if we don't work as a team, and whether it's the new council or the old council, we've had good teams. I hope we get, the next team will be good. It's Temora. And there's no other word for Temora people. They are pretty good. Most of them are spot on. But anyway, Dennis, it's been a pleasure working with you over the last few years, as everybody else. I hope to be work for another term at least, and we'll see how it runs. The staff have been very, very good, as always. And like I said, I'm starting to get used to this job. I've been, 26 odd years here. So
you and the Deputy Mayor of the same class.
Councillor Sinclair. So we're not up to Councillor Judd's number yet, but I think I'll be getting too old by the time I get to that number. Anyway, thank everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Thank you very much, Councillor Smith, for those words, and I think, it's just nice to everyone, speaking from their hearts. I think that's most of the time it's the easiest thing to do. So thank you, Councillor Smith. I just had several things. Of course, we've mentioned the Christmas fair. Of course, that's will be special. And let's remember also the Carols in the Park. And yes, it's a lower key event this year, as I understand. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, they're still trying to work out the best venue for it. They're concerned about. I had a phone call from the Christian Leaders Group today in regard to carols, and they're wondering if Gloucester Park would be still fine to have it in, because most of apparently the regulations sort of indicate that if it's going to be more in worship, you can have vaxxed and unvaxxed, and also singing in the open air. And they're claiming that it's going to be more of a worship service because there won't be any items coming up on stage as there has been in other years because it's been too late to organise that. So the band will be playing and the people that are gathered there will be singing. Plus there'll be a message given, a Christian message given through the night as per usual. So, so I need to sort of get a bit of advice from council as to whether that could be passed as along those lines. It'll still be held within the regulations as far as 2 square metre area for everyone available. Possibly might even be a roped off area at this stage where they'll have a couple of entry points so that everyone can be QR'd into. So that part's getting looked after. And Rotary will be cooking the meal for the night.
Thanks, Councillor Winky, for that update.
So,
if you could take that offline and discuss that with the General Manager after our council meeting, that would be great, because it's an important event and we can have it in one way, shape or form. It'll be very special. So thanks very much. Of course, councillors, the current council will, of course, have our Christmas dinner on what would have been our December meeting, Thursday the 16th. You've received your invitations, and that will be at Zest Restaurant. And again, thanks to the Executive Assistant for raising that. And it will also be incorporating, understand, Mr General Manager, the Councillor Slay's farewell into that special time together. Also, councillors, I've spoken to several times the Forbesshire Mayor, Mayor Phyllis Miller, for obvious reasons, and just extended our warm and good wishes and support, genuine support, if needed, that is appropriate. And she really appreciated that, and she just wanted me to pass on her warm thanks to council staff in our community for caring. So I've done that, and she's doing a great job with her councillors and staff and community under some challenging circumstances. Councillors, I also advise that our council meeting reporter, Mrs Elizabeth Smith, that this is her. I beg your pardon, Mrs Elizabeth Grant, just majesties everywhere. Too many. But to you, Mrs Grant, thank you so much for your efforts in helping to get the word out about council's great works, and we do appreciate your efforts and everything you do. I remember when I was president of the business group and you're our first executive officer, and we worked very closely then, and you were an outstanding, thorough and kind individual then, and you continue that, and certainly being a former journalist, you are a fine wordsmith, and I know you care deeply about your Shire community of Temora. So we thank you, and we wish you all the very, very best. Thank you. And finally, councillors, I haven't had to say this too often yet, but I wish all of you your loved ones a very, very Merry Christmas, and whatever happens in the upcoming elections, I'm sure that we'll get in and support our council, and we'll work hard to make Temora Shire continue to be one of the very, very best councils and communities in this country. So again, I thank you for your kindness and your commitment to this organisation and to our very special community. So thank you. There's nothing further in business without notice. Then we go over to page 120, the Council's information paper. Motion receiving that, please. The Deputy Mayor, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Smith, thank you. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, did anyone have any items in relation to the information paper, please? Golly, our ranger continues to be one of the busiest bees there ever was. Is never, no one day would be the same, I shouldn't think, Mr. Director.
Certainly not.
Thank you. There's nothing else, councillors, in the information paper? If not, in accordance with Section A of the Local Government Act, I advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential, and accordingly they require a motion to have those matters considered. Motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Slay. Councillor Smith, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Resume into closed session. Thank you very much, Council. Resume into open council. I advise the following motions have been brought forward from closed session into open session. Council moved into confidential on the motion of Councillor Slay and Councillor Smith at 5:53 p.m. The motion was carried. Airport Master Plan Implementation Project on the motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Smith. It was resolved that Council receive a future report outlining the proposed developer contribution plan for shared infrastructure at the Temora Air Park Estate, and that motion was carried. Temora SES training, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, moved and seconded by Councillor Reinhold that it was resolved Council grants access to the heated swimming pool up to 2 hours on a Monday evening for organised Temora SES training sessions for a 12-month period, and further that they fit in with current organised user activities, and that motion was carried. Notice of motion, naming of Arts Precinct. The motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Winkie, it was resolved that Council commence community consultation to recommend a name for the arts complex, and further that the old Scout Hall be named the Slunky Gallery, and that motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Oliver and Councillor Slay, it was resolved that Council moves the motions from closed business into open council. And on the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, and seconded Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council moves out of closed council at 7:34 p.m. and into open council. May I now please have a motion to formally adopt those resolutions? Councillor McLaren, Councillor Slay, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. There being no further business for this current council, I again thank councillors and staff for your outstanding efforts over the last 5 years, and I wish each and every one of you and your loved ones all the very, very best, and declare the meeting closed.